the very first Auburn Conference record for the season in 2024-25. Your Tigers are victorious by the score of 84-68. They take down the Missouri Tigers in Neville Arena. We're going to break it all down here in our reaction live stream. The score, the stats, and of course the storylines all coming your way right now. War Eagle, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live here on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're getting it. We appreciate you joining us, hanging out with us to talk about the Auburn experience. Within this Auburn experience, we talk about a variety of things: Auburn sports, Auburn culture, Auburn family stuff. An easier way to say it, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So thank you so much for joining us. And what we're going to do on this particular stream, on the live stream portion, and if you're catching it on the replay, we are discussing and reacting to Auburn basketball taking down the Missouri Tigers in their first SEC conference game, 68-84. I should have said the other way, 84-68. Auburn is victorious, getting Bruce Pearl to that elusive tying of all-time wins at Auburn. So we'll be talking about that and celebrating that a little bit more, hopefully in a game or two, and we'll celebrate that, but at least wanted to acknowledge that to start off with. So we're going to get into those things. Would love for you to start the show off for us on the live portion, especially by smashing the like button if you enjoy this type of content. Thanks for coming back. If you're a returner, if you're new, subscribe, all that good stuff. Join in on the conversation in the live chat here. We want to hear some of your thoughts, your reactions. This is your Auburn experience after all, so we want to hear from you about what you're thinking about, what you noticed. It was pretty kind of pedestrian by the end of the things. But anyway, we want to talk about the score. We want to talk about a stat and, of course, a storyline. The score for you, again, 84-68. Auburn takes down Missouri in their first conference win. The big stat that I have for you tonight is 10 three-pointers made. Now, that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but a lot of these came very early on. In fact, most of the players in the first half, if not all, I think maybe like one, didn't have a three-pointer. It was that good tonight from the three-point arc and put Auburn in a very good position to win. And obviously the storyline tonight is just the first conference game and how important that is to get off on a good note. Missouri's a team certainly that you are expected to take down, considering where people believe they are currently at, not taking a shot at them in one way or the other, but just talking about Auburn versus Missouri at this point. Auburn getting that first win is all important. So your score, your stat, and your storyline. Let's get into it. Now, how we do this is that we dive into stats here, individual stats, team stats. We'll talk about different stories as it comes up. But a lot of our conversation is really dictated upon what you want to discuss in this stream. So a lot of you go ahead and check in with us now, post where you're watching from, your city, state, international, all that good stuff with a War Eagle. Lots of fine people that we know very well already checking in with us from around the country. Caleb just wants to pop in and say from the very get-go, Janai is the best player in the country. I should say that this is just the most redundant thing that you could say at this point, but it is true, Caleb. He is the best player in the country, and he just made it look easy tonight. We tweeted out during the game and said something to the effect of that it just looks too easy. I think we wrote a couple things like this. He looks too easy for him. They just have no answers, that being Missouri, on defense for him. Even when he's double covered and he's got guys all over the top of him, he just doesn't panic. He just doesn't mess up. It seems like a whole lot. And when he does, it's not that big of a deal. Janai Broome is arguably the best in the country. Certainly lots more basketball to be played before we figure all those things out, but certainly he is a candidate for that. Let's see. What else are you guys saying to start off? Devin says we didn't play our best. I definitely would say there are probably some areas where we could have improved a little bit, but what does that say about how high our standards are? The fact that we are doing this well, and we're still not satisfied with what we're seeing. Charles wants to give Presley Patterson, who got that shot at the very end of the game, one of the walk-ons coming in, or the bench players coming in, and we've gotten to see that a lot this season, to score a basket at the end of the game. It's been happening a lot, and hopefully we'll get to still see that a lot during conference play. So shout out to Presley Patterson. All right, I like to ask you guys on the chat, who is your player of the game? Is it that simple? Is it Janai Broome, over, said, done with? If it is, that's fine. I'd love to hear if anybody else wants to make a case for anybody tonight, but it's really hard to do that. And can I just point out, as we talk about probably Janai being the player of the game, he doesn't get a double-double tonight and was at times kind of quiet, like not doing his normal just taking over games at some points, but his teammates were finding him. We saw that beautiful little lob in from Tahad Pettiford earlier in the game, or later in the game, excuse me, to him. Then he just easily puts it up. Janai Broome tonight, 24 points, 9 of 13 from the field. He gets a 3-pointer. He's 5 for 8 from the free throw line, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 personal fouls, 2 turnovers in 28 minutes of play. And I think was like at 4 blocks or something like that before things were figured out. 4 blocks and 1 steal for him tonight. It is quite an impressive stat sheet for him, which arguably does make him the player of the game for a lot of people. It's Janai. Brian says he could pick him up almost every night, but he is just, or we could pick him every night, but he's just that good. I mean, it's the reality of it. Let's see here. And he's still recovering from his injury. That's a good point as well. That's a good case in point for that. Duran says, I feel like Kelly is flying under the radar. He's going to be lights out once he is fully healthy. I forgot that Miles, what was that? I forgot what his issue was that he had. But anyway, so let's look at Miles Kelly tonight. He doesn't have the most impressive stat line. 6 points, 2 for 6 from the field, 1 for 3 from the 3-point arc, 1 for 2 from the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 2 assists in 32 minutes of play. All your starters tonight do score, which not to say that that's a foreign concept or anything like that, but they did that very early. So good to see everybody who was in as starters that was getting out there to score. Certainly Miles Kelly tonight is maybe flying under the radar, but don't you kind of want that as your sniper? And he would be the sniper of this team. I would say that you probably want him to continue to fly under the radar so people continue to lose him when they're trying to concentrate on Janai or CBM who's going off for a game. And then all of a sudden the sniper takes you out from nowhere. So let's maybe that. Let's see. Brian says, how much are you loving CBM's free throw streak? Why did you talk about it? It's kind of like a no-hitter. You don't talk about it. You don't talk about it, Brian. You know this, but anyway, yes, I do love, and you know me well. I love. I'm not going to even say it. I'm just going to bring it up on screen for people there. So if you're listening somewhere in the future, sorry, you're not watching, you're going to have to just go do your research on that because I'm not going to jinx him. Quite the impressive streak coming for him. Caleb wants to make a case for Chaney Johnson to be the second player of the game. Let's look at Chaney Johnson tonight. He had an emphatic dunk that really sent everybody up out of their seats late in the game, which was really fun to see. 13 points today, 5 for 7 from the field, 1 for 1 from the 3-point line arc, 2 for 2 from the free throw line, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. That's a very impressive stat line with 31. He plays the most minutes. No, the second most minutes today. Miles Kelly plays the most minutes today. So that's a very impressive stat line. So it's not a bad one to bring up, Caleb, and to give him a little bit of credit tonight. Let's talk about the overall scoring. Your top scorers tonight are Janai Broome with 24 points. Then a tie for second with Chaney and Chad Baker-Mazara, who really came on strong in the first half. Then you have 2 people tied at third, Denver Jones with 10, Tahad Pettiford with 10. So you have 5 Tigers in double digits tonight. The rest of the scoring is going to be Miles Kelly with 6, as we already talked about, Dylan with his lone 2, Ja'Kai Howard with 4, and then Presley Patterson with 2 points at the very end of the game. So almost everybody who saw significant minutes gets a point tonight. Was a really good showing for either team all the way around. Charles asked, no alley-oops tonight. I would count, if you alley-oops are all, you have to dunk it, but that thing that Pettiford threw to Janai late in the game, I would almost consider an alley-oop. Janai just makes it look so simple. So you probably wouldn't even know if he dunked or not because he's just that good at it. Brian does want to bring this back up again. Bruce Pearl with win 213, ties the most in Auburn history. Can we give him the MVP of the game? I would say a lot of fans and players would agree with you on that. But I think that is more appropriate for the 214th win, and Bruce Pearl would hate us for even mentioning that. But certainly, I think his due is coming very soon. While I am never going to take a game for granted and just assume that it's coming the next time we play, I certainly don't think it's too far off in the future for us to be celebrating 214. But for now, we celebrate 213, and we celebrate what Bruce Pearl has accomplished in his time here at Auburn. Much more conversation to be had about that in the coming days and weeks as we look at arguably Auburn's greatest basketball coach. Did I say that? It's probably true if it wasn't already. Okay. Who else tonight from the stat sheet deserves a shout out, a look at? I think I want to give some props to Denver Jones tonight. Not only is he 3-point shooting, I want to say machine because he's 2 for 6 tonight. So that's not super amazing. It's 33%, but he is one of our best 3-point shooters. But he continues to show that he's much more than that. Makes all his free throws tonight. 1 rebound, 7 assists, distributing the ball very well. There's been a lot of conversation recently that I've had on whether it's YouTube streams, TikTok streams about should Tahad Pettiford start. And I continue to tell people and try to help them understand that just because someone is scoring a lot lately or scoring more than the person that you're comparing them to doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best person to start. In fact, why would you mess up a good thing? And that's not a shot at Tahad Pettiford. And if he starts, he starts. Coaches said that the starting lineup will probably at different times throughout the year look different. Hasn't changed a lot as of late, but certainly that option is there. Denver Jones tonight with 10 points. He has a really good game, I think, overall, and shows why he continues to be trusted with that starting position for Bruce Pearl to get the team off on a good note, being a good scorer, good distributor overall. So props to Denver Jones for another good game tonight. I mean, really, look, folks, when you talk about this, you could really focus on a lot of different things. You could focus on scoring. You could focus on distributing the ball, emphatic plays, those big hype plays, and you would find a lot of cases for a lot of people tonight in terms of props, shout outs, players of the games, things of that nature. I do want to talk about Tahad Pettiford too. He took a pretty bad spill in the game. Looked like, if I saw the replay correctly, because I was kind of looking away when it first happened, but came down hard on his backside and certainly seemed to be really affected by that. I believe came late out of the locker room, probably getting worked on, but does come back into the game. Immediately starts contributing with a 3-pointer. So he clearly wasn't affected all that much. But Charles even notes that Tahad seemed off tonight, had some turnovers and some lazy passes. Yeah, sure, we could probably criticize that a little bit, but I think all players are prone to be a little bit more sloppy, a little bit more loose with the ball when there is an ease of the game being in hand and things like that. And he's also young and stuff like that. But certainly him being off could have been contributed to him taking that spill early in the game and kind of wanting to get a little bit of revenge. So Tahad Pettiford tonight, he gets those 10 points, 3 for 8 from the field, 2 for 5 from the 3-point arc, 2 for 3 from the free throw line, 1 rebound, 1 assist, and only that's 19 minutes of play tonight. So there's Tahad Pettiford's stat line. Just taking a quick look at everybody else to see if there's anything else we want to bring up. Chad Baker-Mazara had another fun time tonight. He has that, if you've seen it online, him getting the 3. That's what it was I wanted to talk about. Can we please get a stat from somebody? I don't know if it's the Auburn SID crew or whoever on how many times Chad Baker-Mazara has had a 4-point opportunity being fouled on the 3-point arc, whether he made the free throw or not. I want to know that stat because I feel like I have watched him be fouled on the 3-point arc and make it beyond several times now. I know it's at least 4. It's got to be at least 4, if not more than that, in such an early part of the season. So Chad continues to be a big factor of the starting lineup, of the lineup in general, and a big reason why we're continuing to win right now. We can talk about some team stats here if you guys would like. And 3 in the last 2 games, Charles says. The announcer said it's happened 4 times before the one tonight, so 5. I knew somebody probably talked about it in the broadcast. I probably wasn't listening during that time because things were getting so boring. Is that sad to say sometimes? There are more difficult times are coming for Auburn and SEC play. Believe that. Let's walk through some team stats tonight, and I want to give you the big three, as I always talk about, that I feel tell you the biggest part of who's going to win the game. Free throws, turnovers, and rebounds. You probably can recite it now. Auburn is 75% from the free throw line tonight. A little bit lower than I like. I like my 80%, and they were doing that consistently for a while there, but they've kind of dipped down into the mid to high 70s the last couple of games. Turnovers tonight, there's your sloppiness. A lot of you talking about maybe this wasn't the best game overall for Auburn, but still dominated. 16-16, tied. A tie on turnovers for Auburn and Missouri. So it's a push there. For rebounds tonight, Missouri actually wins 31-29. That's a little bit shocking because Auburn has dominated on the glass the last few games. Looks like the offensive rebound category is really where Missouri makes the difference and gets them the win in that category. So Auburn wins one, Missouri wins one, a tie in the other. But when you factor in other, obviously, important stats and the home court advantage, the Tigers win. And there's your, I guess, a way to tell the tale of the tape. I always like to look for some other big stats in here. If there's one that you all want to talk about tonight and dive into, we can certainly do that and talk about it. Field goal percentage, 57% from the field today. That three-point percentage is at 48%, 10 for 21. And for a while, it was sitting well above 50% tonight, which was very, very strong, even at home, for Auburn to be able to accomplish that. Jackson says, unfortunately, Broome didn't get a double-double this time around. Isn't that sad that that's the main thing we can pick up as a, I won't even say a critique, a negative of Janai Bree's game? Oh, he didn't get a double-double, but he got 24 points and 7 rebounds. But certainly it does feel weird, Janai not getting a double-double. The rest of the team stats, let's look down here. Second chance points tied at 9. Bench points for Missouri, 47-29. This is really interesting to me now that I'm kind of looking at this, because for the longest time, very few people were scoring for Missouri. 47-29. That's a pretty big margin. And so that's two categories, rebounds and bench points, in this game that usually go in Auburn's favor that don't tonight, and they still win by a dominant. Am I looking at this correctly? I am. I'm reading it correctly. So it's just weird to see. The three-point percentage was the for most of the game was eye-popping. Yes, certainly it took a little bit of a backslide as the game continued to go on. You know, that's just the nature of shooting three-pointers. They're lower percentage shots. The more you shoot them, the more likely is you're going to miss some. Fast break points, 17-13 in Missouri's favor. Auburn wins points in the paint by only 6. Auburn does dominate in blocks, 1-9. Steals, 13 for Missouri, 9 for Auburn. So, you know, when a lot of you came in earlier and said this wasn't the best game, I'm kind of getting the picture of what you're talking about. And maybe I'm a little bit of I want to say a victim's not the right word, but a victim of my own negligence of not realizing and getting so complacent with how dominant Auburn was performing in this game, to the point where I didn't realize that some of these stats, as the game progressed, were trending more in Missouri's favor. You never want to say what would have happened if the game had played a little bit longer, but certainly you wonder, because a lot of these things had flipped into their favor. They win steals. Assists weren't too far off from each other, 12-18. But we're only tied 2 times tonight, and there are only 2 lead changes. So Auburn was in control early, often, and pushed that big margin out and protected themselves at home. So this brings up a good point. How good is the SEC? And we're going to talk about in just a little bit what's next, focusing on right here and right now with Missouri. I think we all can look at this and say, we're at home. You should win this one, if not in a big way, because Missouri, while we're not going to sit here and dismiss them out of hand, it's the SEC. All SEC basketball this year should be pretty dang good. You still should beat Missouri pretty bad, especially at home. And we do that tonight, 84-68. Missouri, if you look at their results so far this year, they were coming into this game 11-2. They had lost to Memphis, who we beat pretty decently. They lost to Illinois barely. So those are their only 2 losses. If you look at their wins, everything's pretty meh, except for that number 1 Kansas win that they got. And they beat them almost by a 10-point margin. So what can we take away for this? Why am I bringing this up? If you look at their resume, you look at the product that we have put out on the court, you look at some of the stats tonight, this is a good win for Auburn. This is a really good win. I'm not just saying that because I want Auburn to be, officially the number 1 team in the land. I'm saying that because the results, the stats of tonight, of some of the things being in Missouri's favor, this is a team that if you catch them on their best night, especially at home, you're probably going to get beat by them. So I don't believe Auburn plays them again. Yeah, I think that's true. Thankfully, Auburn caught them early in the season. There's a quad 2 win, Devin says. So let's keep that in mind. Robert says, not our best game, ? I think Mizzou had something to do with that. Give them credit. They didn't give up. But we won decisively when we were not at our best. Certainly not at our best, and certainly decisively. But it is, I think, there's some stats that indicate it could have been a little bit better in some areas. Any team will have an off night at any point in the season, Neil says. AU is no exception. It is coming, so prepare yourselves for that. I think we were dominant for the first 30 to 35 minutes. Then we got complacent, Brian says. And I think that's reflected in some of the things that people talked about individuals, the team. Maybe that's where some of these stats flipped. There you go. That's the kind of the breakdown of team stats and of individual stats and most of the storylines. So with that in mind, we're not done yet. Stick around. We're going to talk about what's next for Auburn. We still want to hear from you on that. And if there's any other lingering topics and storylines from this game that you want to discuss, but let me give you what I call the rundown of the rest of what's coming up here at E2C Network, especially if you are someone that enjoys live streams and such for us. I want to make sure that you are aware of how you can get plugged in here. What's coming up next for us on Sunday nights? We always do the Auburn Experience podcast live recording at 9 Eastern time every Sunday night. So tomorrow night, if you're watching live or replay shortly after episode 108, we'll certainly be talking about the week in Auburn basketball. Plenty of cool news stories out there, just a little bit small ones that we're going to cover, and much, much more. So join us for sports, culture, and family, all within the Auburn Experience. If you enjoy our post-game streams, we've got some more for you all season, by the way. Auburn versus Texas on the road in Austin. We'll talk about that one as soon as the game concludes on Tuesday. So join us for that. And don't forget about Auburn Family Night, which is our weekly live call-in show where we talk about anything and everything and focus on you, the Auburn family. We will talk about it, take calls from you, 8 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. So join us for that. Excuse me, as I get a little bit choked up there. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about maybe the future, what's next for Auburn, what does this mean, all that stuff. If you've watched any of the SEC basketball, you've seen that some of the best out there still look the best. You've watched the games, you saw some of those that maybe were even expected to lose today still look pretty dang good. So what does that mean? The SEC is going to be tough, y'all. We are 1 game in for us, and everybody will be by the end of today, I believe. So certainly this is going to get even more challenging. For now, Auburn finds itself in the win column and, of course, tied with everyone else that won today in SEC competition. But there's still much, much work to be done. Going to Austin, Texas. Now, I don't know the history, if we've ever been there before for basketball, anything like that. But certainly this will be a very cool, a very unique experience. The one thing that I am going to be disappointed in is if Bruce Pearl does get that win that puts him over the top in Austin and not in Neville Arena. That will be a big disappointment. However, we want him to get it regardless, because if he succeeds, the team succeeds. We don't take a loss on the road. I wonder how this Texas game will look as far as a quad 1 or quad 2 win. I haven't looked at that, and certainly the results they'll have today will determine that or not. But with that in mind, Auburn sits at 13-1, having 1 conference record right now. They go to Texas and then South Carolina, and we'll keep looking forward into the game. Anything else that you guys would like to discuss, that you'd like to dive into about Auburn, this team currently, and of course, this game and anything future looking for that. Let's see here. Does Texas have their, I don't know what that is. Hand cam and the nosebleeds. I'm kind of unbeaten leg. I don't know what that is up there. What else? Jackson, I think, has given us some clarification on that this would be a quad 1 win. Auburn's got several of those already, but certainly one of the biggest tests and biggest factors that you can prove as a team in college basketball is getting quad 1 wins on the road, because certainly those are fewer and far between. Quad 1 wins at home are, maybe not as scrutinized as much, meaning it's more impressive to do it on the road. The main TV camera. Okay, I got you now. I was wondering what we were talking about there. I am not a frequenter of Texas in any way. We guess we're all going to have to be that way because, hey, we're about to play them. They're in the SEC. And certainly we'll find out whatever their cam situation there is there right now. Brian says, I am okay with Bruce getting that win anywhere and as soon as possible. Certainly. But it would be special for him to be able to do it at home. But I think it'll be 3 games from now. So we're not hoping on that. All right. Rounding out the show for you guys and rounding out our conversation. Auburn opens up conference play 84-68 with a win versus the Missouri Tigers. My big stat for you tonight was, of course, that 3-point makes 10 today. Most of those coming in the first half, putting Auburn out very far to play comfortably and maybe a little too comfortably at times. And that big storyline tonight, that first conference win, which is very impressive and always elusive, especially when you consider playing in the SEC in 2025. Got to get used to saying that after all, because it is 2025, folks. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with us. Hope to see you on the next post-game show show, if I can talk, for Texas. Any of the other live streams we got this Sunday, on Wednesdays. Thank you guys for continuing to be part of our little family within the Auburn family. We appreciate you being here and hanging out with us. Until we talk to you again. War Eagle.